We're here talking about Frithjof Bergmann, who is an amazing thought leader and philosopher who's really come up with this whole concept of new work, which, as we know, that's our business, co-working and the new work.
Yeah.
So I want to share a snippet of this podcast in which Frithjof Bergmann was interviewed, just to really kind of kick off our dialogue and discussion, because it's really rich what he says. One of the first main differences between the culture I hope will come into being and the culture we have now is a culture in which poverty will be abolished, and that will make, in my mind, an almost unimaginable difference. Everyone will have access to technologies. People, not because they have a job, but because they have technologies, they will also have maker spaces, internet cafes, really allowing people to collaborate and to connect and to build and have access to resources, to the things that they need. The idea of people doing something that they deeply and truly want to do, a large majority of people that are doing what they are passionate about, that will make a very different global culture. This will have something in common with the times of Florence, Shakespeare, and Athens, the points that are in history in which culture was at its highest point, that blended beautifully together to create a colorful firework. I think that's really interesting. That's a really great point that he brings in, and what you were mentioning earlier, Felina, about this idea that jobs and the JLB is not something that we really have to have in order to make money. We kind of, and you alluded to it, and before the Industrial Revolution, the idea of a job was kind of something unorthodox. Like, people just did what they were good at. They farmed, they traded, bartered. It's a totally different concept. And of course things had value, but value and money just looked very differently than how it does now. And because of that, there was a real great opportunity and a space for people to start creating. So that's artisans and the Renaissance movement and Leonardo da Vinci and all these amazing people that were actually so focused on creating, philosophers, theologians. And not only did they actually have the time and space to do it, but they were valued members of society. That idea of just thinking and discussion, that was considered high society, which is something very different than what we view now.
Been sitting on the couch watching American Idol makes me want to cry.
I know. Instead of actually sitting and having enriched discussion.
Exactly.
And I think that brings up a great point, what you're saying, which we're going to share this with Frithjof too. He shares that this kind of traditional workforce also, it mentally exhausts people. So by the time that they are coming home, all they want to do is sit in front of the television. They want to unwind, literally unplug themselves from having to think, having to do, because it takes so much out of them. So imagine a place where, well, you make enough money to kind of pay for what you need to. You're also going out and pursuing passion projects. That frees up so much time and space and interest in actually having the ability to have discussions and to look at art and to really value those kinds of different industries and ideas.
Absolutely. I love it. Brilliant.
So that work was something that wasn't as important as it is now back then. It wasn't it didn't bear so much weight with people's well-being.
Absolutely.
And now for us, this is how we view our sense of self. Our identity is all wrapped up in what we do.
Yeah, that's the common question when you meet somebody, right?
What do you do?
Which,
prove your worth in 30 seconds with what you do.
Exactly. The question I like to ask when I'm out and about is, I'll either say, tell me about you. I never say, what do you do? I just say, tell me about you. Tell me more about you, kind of thing. And the other one, sometimes if I really want to throw somebody a curveball, I'll say, tell me what you're passionate about.
That's my question. Yeah, that's my question.
And it really plays into, again, Frithjof's comment of that, foremost, work is not energizing. And I tie this back into, for me at least, in my business, and I get this question all of the time. This is like the famous question of every panel with female entrepreneurs. How do you handle work-life balance?
I've never once heard that question asked to a man.
Right? Right?
I don't get it.
I get it every single time I'm on a panel. It's really funny to me. And I typically will say something like, I don't have any work-life balance, just to be, shocking a bit. But for me, my business, my work, so to speak, I don't even call it work most of the time, right? Is so energizing. I love it so much. I mean, imagine as you can, because you're here, imagine surrounding yourself with amazing female entrepreneurs who are creating and inspiring and doing amazing things and having some real conversations and helping and supporting and building all under one roof. And I'm having coffee in the morning and hanging out and talking to people and maybe a glass of wine at night. And, I may work from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on any given day, which I do yesterday.
I know that I won't get emails back until 11:30 or midnight, and they're all at once. So she'll finally respond to all of them. So she really works like 12, 13-hour days every single day.
But I love it. It doesn't even feel like work. I mean, that's my point, is how can you, and there's so much around this, do what you're passionate about, which I believe in, but I wonder if we need to reframe that, because I think a lot of people will hear that and think, oh, it's fluffy kind of thing, It's doing what you're called to do, doing what you're really good at. Maybe that's the way we reframe it, doing what you're good at.
And I think that, like you said, a life's passion is not fluffy. I mean, that's why there are millions of dollars being pushed into the professional development industry and life coaches. Everyone needs a life coach. Finding your life's purpose is by far the hardest aspect of being human.
Yeah.
And to even go into this further, so I'm certified in one of Gallup's assessments called Strength Finder. And it's essentially a snapshot of your strengths and who you are at this very moment. And they did a study showing that when people lost a spouse or a significant other in their life or a child, they were able to bounce back faster than being unemployed or not having a job. And that people are, when you've once been unemployed or you don't have a job, have gone through serious bouts of depression, anxiety. That's because we have placed so much emphasis on focus on what do you do? How do you contribute? Our identity is tapped into what we do. It's our work. Whereas before the Industrial Revolution, it mattered, but not to the extent that it does now.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think Frithjof Bergmann's movement is really so incredible, and it's really truly profound work. This is not fluff. We're talking about people's purpose for existence and shifting that idea of it has to be this traditional 9-to-5 or else I don't have value, I don't contribute to society. Versus this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I get to do.
Absolutely. Last point, I'm going to blame the very structure of where my experience lies is marketing. Because we've been, and nobody makes you do anything, but we've been sold this bill of goods of what the good life is because of over marketing through television and social media, and at every turn it's you need to have this, you need to be wearing this, you need to look like XYZ celebrity, you need to need, which we don't need any of it, but we get sucked in to common day practices of this feeding frenzy, so to speak, which then ties us, handcuffs us, if you will, to this concept of a stable job and all these different things. So to me, the way I handle it is I really ban as much mainstream media as I can. Obviously, it's still around us, and of course I participate in social media, but at least you can digest the things that you want to digest versus plopping on the couch and watching, what's out there. So I blame marketing, which is been my career path. But there's a lot of different structures within that and things you can do for good versus what we see now.
Absolutely.